Hello and welcome to another episode of Quaid-i-Azam Union. We are going to discuss a very important topic today, that is India's diplomatic blunders after Operation Sindoor. And we will see, can India be a great power again? So we would do a sort of comparison between India and Pakistan, that how these two powers carried out their diplomacy after the Indo-Pak conflict that happened between 6th May and 10 May. So firstly, we again begin with Pelgam. It started on 22nd April. India blamed Pakistan and it carried out a vigorous propaganda against Pakistan to blame it for terrorism in India. But Pakistan, to quote unquote, answered with a diplomatic gesture for dialogue that Pakistan wants an impartial and neutral investigation for Pahalgam incident. That was rejected by India, and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi in fact threatened Pakistan to find, track, and punish the terrorists wherever they are found. Now, on 6th May, India attacked Pakistan, and in retaliation, Pakistan carried out its own strike not only in Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir but also inside the Indian territory. And according to various sources, Pakistan claimed to have destroyed five Indian aircraft, including three Rafales from the French Dassault Company. Now, when United States intervened and it carried out a ceasefire between India and Pakistan, which was announced by the President Trump, India then took toward a diplomatic blitz and started a campaign to send few of its representatives to whole of the world to carry a message that Pakistan carried out terrorist attacks, and that's why India carried out Operation Sindoor. Now they have formed, I think they have formed almost seven groups, I guess, and these groups comprised of various members from opposition and government parties. And the foremost group was of Shashi Tharoor, and he led his group toward America and Latin American states. So Shashi Tharoor reached America, and he actually failed to convince the American administration to issue communique about the condemnation of Pakistan or condemnation of any of groups that it claims to have carried out the attacks. So again, after United States, he visited Colombia, where he was again, rebuffed by the Colombian administration because Colombia has already asked for dialogue and diplomacy between the two countries. And Colombia, in fact, was, threatened by Shashi Tharoor that you didn't condemn Pakistan. So they again clarified that they asked both parties to have a dialogue and diplomacy to resolve their issues. And the group of Shashi Tharoor, in fact, carried out a very strong propaganda against Pakistan, and it claimed whenever there was, argument that what are the evidences of Pelgam involvement of Pakistan. So Shashi Tharoor, we begin. Let's look at Mumbai attacks. Look at Indian Parliament attack. These all were carried out some kind of illicit sport from Pakistan. And when it came to Pelgam, he again quoted the previous incidents. But Pakistan denied this kind of arguments because Pakistan has cracked down on these elements after 2016, in which national action plan was carried out, and they have in fact banned multiple organizations including Lashkar-e-Taiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed, and they have apprehended the leader of Lashkar-e-Taiba called Hafiz Saeed. So afterward, Pakistan also came out of FATF grey list, which seeks to check the country's progress on counterterrorism, on money laundering, on illicit support for militant groups. So Pakistan came out of Financial Action Task Force grey list in 2022. That was a solid proof, according to Pakistan, for Pakistan's efforts against counterterrorism. Now, why India basically failed to convince the world against Pakistan, and why, in fact, Pakistan was given so much preference over India despite India's 4 trillion economy, India's one of the most biggest so-called democracy, and why India failed to convince the world to issue a strong statement with respect to Pahalgam. This is very important question. First of all, India for the last few years is trying to build an image of a great power. It tries to cultivate that India is going to be a phenomenal power in international affairs, and the powers such as United States or China or Russia cannot ignore India. And in fact, they have started acting like a great power. You can see Shashi Tharoor arguments that we are working on development and progress, and we are not concerned with Pakistan. We are not concerned with any of our neighbors. We want to focus on our development. And you can also listen and check the attitude of Indian Foreign Minister Shankar, who always gives lectures to West about the Indian values. About he also criticizes West about Western concept of international relations. He called out Western values, a sort of vision. He called out West in front of Anthony Blinken that West problems are not world's problems. So, these kind of statements, in fact, carried out image of an hearty India. It carried out a message that India is cultivating a hubris, despite that it is not such a great power. Now, few things that must be noted here, that why India, did not get the support of all these power. First and foremost, Russia. Why Russia did not condemn, India's so-called terrorism and India's so-called blame against Pakistan. Firstly, Pakistan and Russia are trying to rebuild relationships, and these are going to be warm every day. But after Russia started war against Ukraine, although Russia always supported India in 1965, Russia supported India in 1971, Russia supported India in 1984, Russia supported India in 1999, Russia supported India against Pakistan in all these cases. But when it came to Russia against the West, against Ukraine, Narendra Modi told Putin in front of whole world that you have to stop war, you have to stop killing, you have to stop war against Ukraine because it is damaging to the whole international world. And this was very, disappointing for Russian leadership, that they have cultivated friendship with India for over 70 years, but India did not prove that loyal. India has debunked them on the international stage when the time came for Russia that India should stand by him. So, for that reason, Russia gradually started adopting a neutral position between Pakistan and India. And in fact, after that, Prime Minister of Pakistan visited Russia, and in 2023, Pakistan's ministers for petroleum has visited Russia, and Pakistan and Russia started building a very strong relationship. And Russia in 2024 supported Pakistan's call for inclusion in BRICS. Now, when it comes to West, why Western countries choose the line of impartiality between India and Pakistan? Again, Western, countries needed support of India against Russia in Ukraine. West wanted that India should condemn the actions of Vladimir Putin in Ukraine and pressurize Russia to stop the war. But Shankar started lecturing West about Western problems, that West thinks that world problems are not Western problem and Western problems are world problem. Like these sort of comments in front of Anthony Blinken, and he has given such kind of interviews intermittently and criticizing Western values, Western agenda for world, Western concept of international relations, Western belief about Ukrainian nuclear program, and that has led to alienation of West and India. Western countries started a kind of thinking about India, that India is not going to disengage with Russia. That's why they were not going to support India during India-Pakistan conflict. And West, that's why, chose a neutral, impartial position between India and Pakistan, and it did not mention the role of Pakistan in any kind of blame that was carried out by India against Pakistan, that Pakistan is the sponsor. So Western countries didn't buy the argument of India. Now, if we come to another important region, that is East Asia, that why the countries of East Asia did not accepted the argument of India. First of all, Malaysia is very strong friend of Pakistan. Indonesia is a Muslim country and it is cultivating strong ties both in India and Pakistan. And Indonesia is also friend of China. Indonesia is also friend of Middle Eastern countries. So when Indian diplomats reached Indonesia, they carried out propaganda that Pakistan is trying to influence Indonesian foreign ministry not to host Indian diplomats and Indian delegations. So, by continuous propaganda from the Indian media networks, Indonesia issued strong rejection of such claim that Pakistan did not approach Indonesia not to host any kind of Indian delegation, and they said that Pakistan respects Indonesian sovereignty. In fact, Pakistan also clarified that we are not concerned whoever is hosted by Indonesia. So this kind of wrong and misinformation spread by India created an image of India that it is highly irresponsible and childish nature of a nation that seeks to create confusion between countries' relation. And when Indonesian diplomat was asked by Indian news channel that are you going to oppose Pakistan in OIC about Kashmir and about Pakistan's position. So he again said that we are going to have a principal stance in United Nations about Kashmir, and that is right of self-determination. So again, India was rebuffed, and they started propaganda against Indonesian diplomats that they are saying that they have a principal stand, they are not going to condemn terrorism, like these sort of arguments. And these kind of arguments created a highly mistrust between Indonesia and India, and Indonesia did not issued any statement in favor of India. Malaysia is always friend of Pakistan, and it showed to the world that it stands with Pakistan. Now, when it comes to the region of Middle East, that is extremely important. Middle East is going through another crisis, and Middle East is basically engaged in the crisis not only with Israel, but in the crisis of Iran, in the crisis of Syria, in the crisis of Suez Canal, in the Gulf crisis. So there are multiple things were happening in the Middle East, and when India tried to convince the leaders of Middle East about Pakistan, they in fact needed Pakistan. So these states such as Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, they did not issued any statement with respect to Pakistan. In fact, they asked both countries to carry out dialogue and diplomacy for peaceful and, you know, the settlement that could be fulfilled on the basis of aspirations of Kashmiri people, and they preferred dialogue and diplomacy instead of condemning or pressurizing any of country. And in fact, Saudi Arabia helped in ceasefire when Saudi foreign minister came to Pakistan, and he was, you know, advised by Pakistan to carry the message to United States to ask India if they're not going to sit down, we are going to attack India. So that was basically the message then given to Jay Shankar by Marco Rubio that Pakistan is going to start a war, so you have to stop. Then there is another important region that is of Central Asia. Why Central Asia did not help India or did not issue any kind of statement with respect to India? Central Asian states such as Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Azerbaijan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan, Turkey, Armenia, these states are highly pro-Pakistan, except Armenia. And in fact, Azerbaijan was helped by Pakistan during Nagorno-Karabakh crisis in 2020, and Pakistan helped Azerbaijan against Armenia. So Armenia chose the side of India, and Azerbaijan and Turkey chose the side of Pakistan, and that was kind of regional geopolitical tension was also playing at the time. And Azerbaijan showed full support to Pakistan. So in this region, India was also sidelined. So India failed to convince not only Azerbaijan, but in fact against Turkey, India started a campaign of boycott against Turkey. And this has led to multiple projects cancellation, such as Turkish airline was banned in India, and multiple products of India was banned, were banned for export to Turkey, and Turkish products were banned. High tariff was imposed. So these kind of measures created a highly, tense relation between Turkey and India. So again, India is out from Central Asia. Now the region, very important region, South China, that includes China, Japan, Philippines, and Vietnam, etc. These countries. China has stood like an iron brother with Pakistan. They have strongly condemned Indian aggression against Pakistan. In fact, they have helped Pakistan diplomatically, politically, and militarily. Pakistan used few of Chinese weapons against Indian Western weapons, and they have been, very fantastic, and they have proven their mental in war against India. So China again chose the side of Pakistan, like it always. It has stood with Pakistan in 1965, in 1971, in 1984, in 1988, in 1999, in 2011, in 2019, and again in 2025. So China-Pakistan brotherhood always remains higher than the Himalayas and deeper than the seas. That has again proved. Now, the most important region that India expected that it would issue statements for India, it would issue statements favorable to India, is the United States of America and, of course, Canada. Now, why Canada did not issued any kind of strong statement with respect to India? In June 2023, Indian Raw Agency carried out an assassination attempt. In fact, succeeded in assassinating one of the important member of Khalistan movement in Canada, and Canadian agencies have found the links of Raw and Indian diplomats in that assassination, and they have in fact asked India to cooperate in an investigation and hand those culprits to Canada to face the justice. But Indian government in fact severed the relations between India and Canada, and they expelled the diplomats of Canada and asked its own citizens not to travel to Canada. Now, Canada and India were going through a tense situation since last 2 years, and it was a very important movement for the Canada to show to India that it stands neutral in that position. Prior to that India and Canada had a wonderful friendship, and after Hardeep Singh Nijjar's killing, Canada and India had broken up. And in fact, they have now, after Modi's visit to Canada for G7, again started a kind of new relationship that would take long time to build a relationship of trust, mutual cooperation, and mutual understanding. So Canada did not supported India. What remains is United States. Why United States did not help India or did not choose the side between India and Pakistan? First of all, Pakistan seems to be going into the camp of China, but it still maintains relationship with United States of America. Now, United States of America was in a very complicated situation, because if it supported India, then Pakistan would surely would have gone completely into the camp of China. And if United States had helped Pakistan, then India would have gone to the camp of Russia. So it chose a position of neutrality, and in fact chose to mediate between India and Pakistan to calm down these countries, because it had more broader issues to sort out, especially in the Middle East and Syria, and of course with China. So, it tried to pacify Pakistan that India cannot violate further sovereignty of Pakistan. So please, you have to engage with India, you have to engage with US, you have to engage with China and keep a balanced relationship. Apart from that, Iran and US were going through a tense situation, and Pakistan for the last few months had made a very wonderful friendship with Iran, and that friendship basically gave so much leverage to Pakistan over Iran, and United States wanted to use that leverage over Iran with respect to Iran to convince Iran to come to negotiating table. And there was also tension between Iran and Israel, so US was more concerned with that if they chose the side of India, Pakistan would surely choose the side of Iran in the upcoming conflict they were planning for a long time. So United States saw this that conflict from the perspective of whole region, and that basically would help United States to keep Pakistan out of conflict between Iran and Israel, and that basically happened. Apart from that, United States also needed Pakistan's cooperation with respect to the issue of Iran nuclear energy process, or in a nuclear bomb making process, and United States wanted Pakistan channel to communicate with Iran and you know ask them Iran to disengage with Israel. And that's why United States hosted Pakistan's field marshal in White House, where they have discussed the issue, and most of the reports which came afterwards say that it was Pakistan's army who convinced United States to not invade Iran, because it would create so much mayhem and another kind of Iraq like crisis. So that's why Iran was saved by Pakistan, and US was saved from another crisis that would, have engulfed the Gulf countries, and would have attracted United States into a much longer conflicts. So that is basically the story why Indian diplomatic blitz fails against Pakistan. So Pakistan's geopolitical position helped Pakistan to gain so much leverage over the countries of the world, and it convinced the world that it is a responsible state. Its media was responsible. It didn't carry out fake propaganda. It didn't carry out so much fake news like capturing of Delhi or Mumbai or Maharashtra. India carried out such kind of illogical media proliferation, and afterwards Indian thinking of being a great power were highly damaged. And it thought that if it would act like a big power and attack neighbor and it would not get response, first of all, it got response, and that was very firm response. Apart from that, it did not got the support that it thought it would get because of its economic and political stature in the world stage, and that is completely crashed. And it was previously being hyphenated with China as a competitor to China, but now it is again hyphenated with Pakistan. Apart from that, Kashmir has become the central issue, which India always tried to make it a bilateral or a domestic issue. Kashmir came to center stage. That was major diplomatic blunder for Modi's government, called out by Congress that you have united all the enemies of India you know, against a single drop of blunder you have made for the last years. So these kind of diplomatic blunders basically isolated India and exposed the failed strategy of Indian government. Now, can India be great power? That, of course, is a question that needs to be addressed. And I would refer here to the Ashley J. Tellis article, The Great Power Delusion in the Foreign Affairs. India cannot become great power, the author argues. Why? First of all, India has such big population that this population make India a consumerist country instead of a productive country. Its economy is growing because of its consumerism, not because of its manufacturing power or productive capacity or industrial power. It has a large market that is driving the economy of India. So that's why any country who seems or who aspires to become a world power must have a productive capacity and industrial power that India does not have. Second, India has one of the most biggest population, but out of that population, 600 million people live in poverty. And that is astonishing figure. If you combine 600 million, that make up basically the population of American continent. Both American continent population comprises of 600 millions. So imagine if a whole of continent is impoverished, how can you make a country that big a superpower? That is unthinkable for India. Apart from that, India's Modi's blunders. Modi has eroded democracy. It has adopted a fascist attitude that is very rapacious with respect to the rights of minorities. It is it is carrying the propaganda against minorities, calling them aliens and predators about the India. They have eliminated the history of Muslims from the textbooks. They are carrying out every kind of propaganda against the people who resent the policies of BJP. And apart from that, India has reverted to a mindset that is ancient and medieval. Instead of becoming secular and modern and democratic and technological, India is reverting back to 3 to 4 thousand year old history, mythical history that has no existence and that lives only in myths, like it is going back to the history of Vedic time periods, or kind of Ayurveda time period, or yoga like practices are being invented. So these kind of mindset cannot compete in modern world. This is the argument of the author. Furthermore, instead of acting as a responsible power, as a responsible state, India has always cried fool. In terms of giving right to minorities, India has suppressed, in fact, honestly, but it has suppressed the minorities, it has snatched the rights with full rapaciousness of these minorities, such as in Manipur, in Nagaland, in Naxalite, in Jammu and Kashmir, and it has carried out every effort against the opposition by reducing them to a rubber stamp. Furthermore, India cannot become a superpower because India is not of one nation. India consists of multiple nations that are Dravidians, that are Tamils, that are Naxalite, that are Buddhist, that are Muslims, that are Christians. It contained so much population that can never be a single unity. So, the nation which cannot become a single united force can never become a great power. These are certain facts that make India highly vulnerable state in future, and by carrying out a fascist dictatorial style government, Modi is alienating the states that are away from center, and these states are looking forward for the new solutions because center is grabbing more and more power, becoming more and more rapacious, becoming more and more extractive, and becoming more and more exclusive. That's why these states of India are seeing towards some kind of different role, and that was seen by the CM of Maharashtra, who called his population to increase their population and become a separate identity. And most of the Marathi speakers are carrying out a campaign that we don't need Hindi in our province, and if one want to live in Marathas land, they need to speak Marathi. Finally, Pakistan has also proved its mental in terms of its diplomatic maneuvers. Pakistan, first and foremost, has showed a great image as a responsible power. It has and only acted in defensive way, and as India has sent delegations to whole world, Pakistan sent delegation to few countries, including United States, Europe, and Britain, and they have showed to the world that they are not concerned with the whole world opinion. They are concerned with few states, and they have told them the truth that Pakistan was not involved. Pakistan called for impartial investigation. Pakistan still called for dialogue, and in fact, Pakistan premier again invited India for dialogue. Final, what this generation deserves. The generation of India and Pakistan wants peace. First and foremost, both nations' youth want progress in their life. They don't want to entangle themselves with the past conflicts, and these past conflicts must be resolved by dialogue, diplomacy, by engagement. If these gerontocrats keep ruling the two countries, there would never ever be a solution to the problem. Both countries' youth need to think in terms of changing political generation. Modi is above 70. Pakistan Prime Minister is above 70. So we need to get rid of these generations, and we need to shift our politics toward youth between 30 or 45 maximum age, and we need to engage the youth together to sort out the problems. And first and foremost of sorting out this problem is to just forget everything, come to the table, sit like friend, discuss, because we have a shared history. We have ruled India, developed India, and most of the monuments that are still giving revenue to India were built by the generations that are now living in Pakistan. So there is high need for engagement between India and Pakistan. Both countries use deserve peace and prosperity. India must, you know, leave the dream of hegemony. It should engage with Pakistan. It should engage with Bangladesh. It should engage with every country that is its neighbor. Let's revive SARC. Let's revive free trade agreements. Let's come to the table and discuss the issues. Let's resolve Kashmir issue. Let's resolve Indus Water Treaty and solve the problem. Let's come to each other countries, enjoy each other hospitality, and live like a good neighborly friends. And that is only solution way forward for both countries. Hope the sanity prevails. Let's see what's happened in the future, and we pray that both countries one day may come to the table to sort out issues and bring a shared future and a shared cooperative progress that must fulfill the expectations of the people. Thank you, Allah Hafiz.